Welcome, everyone. Today we're diving into Bishop Larry Jackson's study group session on Madame Guyon's book.
Experiencing the depths of Christ.
That's the one. And this session, wow, he really went deep,
Oh, yeah.
taking the group through the first chapter, from the shadows to the depths, paragraph by paragraph.
It's such a powerful chapter. And, the way he just breaks it down.
It really is fascinating.
From the very start, he sets this intention
Yeah.
of helping everyone cultivate a deeper relationship with Jesus Christ.
He kept talking about this inward relationship.
Right.
And I feel like sometimes so much of our faith journey can kind of get focused on outward actions.
Yeah, like checking things off a list instead of
So-
that shift he's talking about.
Yes.
It's really about, turning our hearts toward Jesus and letting that love be the guide.
I loved how he even defined it.
It did, he said.
The turning and yielding of your heart in love towards Jesus.
Beautiful, isn't it?
It is. And he didn't stop at just the metaphorical heart either.
Oh, no, he went even deeper.
He did, talking about the actual Greek word cardia.
Which I have to admit,
I know, right?
I'd never really considered that before.
Me either.
But it makes so much sense, cardia.
It really does.
He explained that it refers to he called it
Go on.
the center and seat of spiritual life, like the core of who we are.
Where our spirit and soul kind of connect.
Exactly. And that's where he says this relationship with Jesus truly begins.
And flourishes.
Precise.
It really makes you think how much of our faith is lived out there,
Outwardly, yeah.
maybe even for other people,
Mhm.
versus really letting that inner transformation.
Take root, changes from the inside.
Exactly.
And that's where he uses this amazing analogy. You'll love this.
Alrighty.
He talks about thirst and hunger.
Oh, okay.
And he says, thirst is first and hunger follows. We are usually thirsty when we think we're hungry.
Ooh, that's good.
Right.
It's like sometimes we're trying to satisfy ourselves,
With all these external things.
achievements, possession,
The whole 9 yards.
but deep down, what we're really craving,
Is that connection with God?
we just haven't quite figured that out yet.
It's like we haven't pinpointed it.
Yeah, we're trying to quench our thirst with a plate of food, basically.
Oh, that's it. And he even goes on to say, desire is thirst. Desire fulfilled is meat. It's like when we finally realize that what we truly desire,
Is God.
yes, and we allow that desire to lead us to him.
That's when we find real satisfaction.
Spiritual nourishment.
Then he brings in this whole image of the stray sheep,
Oh, yes.
which I thought, does this apply to people who are already...
Actively involved in church?
Exactly. But he kind of flips that idea on its head.
It's a powerful image.
It is.
He was saying even those of us going to church, doing all the things,
Ministries, all of it.
can still be spiritually lost.
Wow.
It's not just about outward involvement, it's
Yeah. It's about the heart.
the state of our hearts.
I love this line where he talks about the shepherd's perspective. He says, the shepherd doesn't see the sheep that is strayed away as an enemy. He sees it as needing his help and getting him back to safety.
So much compassion in that.
It really is.
A reminder that even when we've wandered,
God doesn't reject us.
he doesn't.
He's patiently waiting.
And longing to bring us back to him.
It really made me ask myself, am I truly connected to the shepherd, letting him guide me? Or am I out here trying to do this whole thing on my own?
That's a question we all need to ask ourselves.
And that's where this whole concept of prayer of simplicity comes in.
Yes. Bishop Jackson describes it as a way to unlock a deeper experience of Christ.
To connect with God beyond just our intellect.
He really emphasized that it's not about,
Rationalizing.
right, or finding the perfect words.
Yeah.
He even said, it is not a rational prayer. It is a prayer that begins in the heart. It does not come from your understanding or your thoughts.
It's about silencing the mind
Letting go of that constant chatter
and simply opening our hearts.
to God's presence.
He said something so striking. He said, this way to God is more natural and easier than taking a breath.
Wow.
I know, right? Like it should be effortless,
This innate connection.
but we've somehow made it so much more complicated.
So much to unpack there.
I know. But there was one more thing that I found super challenging.
Oh, I'm curious. What was it?
He was talking about how our past experiences with God,
Okay.
even the good ones, can actually hinder our future growth.
Almost paradoxical.
I know, right?
What did he say exactly?
He said, the last move of God is the thing that will hinder the next move. Your last experience with God is the thing that will hinder your next experience with God.
It's like we get stuck.
We cling to a certain
A
experience,
framework that's comfortable.
but in doing that,
We might be limiting ourselves.
from experiencing him in new ways.
Deeper ways.
Exactly.
It's like he's saying, be open, let go of those preconceived notions.
Don't be afraid to let God surprise you.
To reveal himself in ways you never imagined.
It's called to keep our hearts
Soft and pliable.
always seeking that fresh encounter with him.
I love that.
So much to think about there.
Definitely. I'm curious to hear more about his thoughts on this prayer of simplicity, though.
Me too.
How do we actually access this deeper level of prayer?
How do we quiet those busy minds of ours?
Let's dive into that in the next section. I can't wait to hear what Bishop Jackson has to say. Thankfully, he doesn't make this prayer of simplicity sound like some...
Mystical secret.
Right. He's actually very practical about it,
Okay, good.
encouraging us to just find a quiet place
That makes sense.
where we can just be still.
Be still before God,
Exactly, like creating space for that connection
away from all the noise
to distract.
of everyday life.
He really emphasizes silencing our minds, though.
Which, let's be honest,
Can be a challenge.
he even joked, he said.
I know, he told us to tell our minds to just
Ship.
during prayer time.
I love that.
It's so true. Our thoughts can really get in the way
They can.
of experiencing God.
But how do we actually do that?
He shared a few really simple but powerful practices.
Right.
One of them is just focusing on God's presence, imagining him surrounding us with his love and peace.
It's not about forcing specific thoughts or feelings.
No, not at all. It's more about in the awareness that he's there.
It sounds almost meditative.
It is, in a way.
Letting our minds settle and just
Becoming
have
receptive.
his presence.
And, he acknowledges
What?
our minds are going to wander.
Oh, yeah.
They will, and when they do, he says to just redirect our attention back to God.
Without judgment. Training a muscle,
Exactly. The more we practice it.
the easier it becomes.
He also suggested, this is interesting,
Kami.
using a simple phrase or word,
Oh, like a mantra.
sort of as an anchor for our attention.
Give me an example.
Something like Jesus or I love you.
Be still.
Yeah, just repeating that silently.
Drawing us deeper into his presence
It's like we're creating a sacred space in our minds.
to meet with God.
But he reminds us this is a journey.
Not a destination.
There's no one size fits all.
It's good to remember.
He encourages experimentation.
Find what works.
What resonates with your heart.
To connect with God authentically.
So it could be listening to music, being in nature.
Even just sitting quietly at home.
He even mentioned walking.
Oh, yeah, like prayer walks.
Whatever creates that intimacy with God.
It's not about achieving.
It's a perfect state of mind.
Right.
Or following rules.
That's about the heart.
The posture of our heart.
Openness
Yeah.
to his presence.
He said that nothing can interrupt this prayer.
Really?
Yeah.
Except our own selfish desires.
That's what gets in the way.
Wow, when you put it that way.
It's our ego, our wants.
That block us from truly experiencing God.
But here's the beautiful thing he said.
I like beautiful things.
Once we've tasted the sweetness of God's love,
Okay.
our selfish desires lose their power over us.
It's like a cycle. The more we experience his love,
The less those desires control us
and then we're able to connect with him.
on a deeper level.
It ties back to that thirst and hunger.
It does.
Realizing that he is
The ultimate source of
the
fulfillment.
living water.
Quenching our thirst.
Something else he said that I found so thought-provoking.
Okay, tell me.
God's desire to give himself to us
Yes.
is actually greater.
Then our desire to receive him.
Wow.
It's humbling, isn't it?
He's constantly pursuing us.
Pouring out his love
It's like he's saying, don't limit me
with your small desires.
with your limited understanding.
I want to give you so much more.
He really challenged us to consider,
If our hearts truly belong to the Lord,
not just in words,
but in the surrender
That's
our
right.
desires,
yeah.
it makes you think, why are we seeking God?
for what we can get from him,
You're because we love him.
for the joy of being in his presence.
And that ties into this whole idea of true riches.
Yes, he was talking about how we often seek fulfillment in
External things.
possessions, relationships,
Achievements.
but those things,
I'm never truly satisfied.
it's like chasing a mirage.
Always seeking, never finding.
True contentment,
He's reminding us true riches
the kind that last,
are found in our relationship with Christ,
in knowing him,
loving him.
letting his love transform us.
He even used his own marriage.
Oh, yeah, I remember that.
He said if his love for his wife was greater on their wedding day,
Than it is now.
it would mean his love was fading.
Wow. That's a powerful image.
He's saying our love for God,
Should be constantly growing,
becoming more vibrant.
all-consuming.
It made me think about those times when
Our faith feels stagnant.
routine.
It's like a reminder to keep seeking.
Keep exploring
Let God surprise us.
with his love.
And to make space,
Where that connection.
to cultivate that heart.
That's always turning towards him.
It's like a beautiful dance.
Our desire for him.
And his relentless pursuit of us.
But you know, something I really appreciated was how he addressed those who might feel,
Inadequate.
yes, unqualified.
To pursue this kind of relationship with God.
He specifically talked about those who might feel
Simple.
uneducated.
And he made it clear.
God's grace is for everyone,
No matter
your background.
or intellectual capacity,
He even said that sometimes.
those who are considered simple.
Actually have a deeper understanding of God. They
Yes.
approach him with humility.
Free from intellectual pride.
It's a good reminder.
Exactly.
God often works in unexpected ways.
He chooses the
But I like
humble
guy.
to reveal his glory.
I love that story he shared
About the early days,
of his walk with God
where he could barely hear the knife of Jesus.
without feeling his heart flutter.
It's such a beautiful image
It is.
of his devotion.
And Jesus.
And then he asked this question.
Oh, yes.
Do you love the Lord to the degree that your emotions are stirred?
It really makes you think.
About the genuineness of our love.
Is it just mental?
A set of beliefs? Or does it engage our hearts?
Our emotions.
Our whole being?
He was encouraging us to,
Let ourselves be moved
by God's love,
to experience those emotions.
that come with a vibrant relationship.
With him.
It's not about forcing it,
But creating space.
those emotions to flow.
From a place of deep connection.
And he said, this is key, I think.
Okay, what is it?
As we grow in our relationship with God,
Okay.
our love for him should intensify.
Not diminish. It should become
vibrant.
more all-consuming.
Experience more of his goodness.
More of his grace.
But you know, even though I resonate with all this,
I understand.
I can't help but wonder,
What?
how do we navigate the complexities of life
The real world?
while still cultivating this deeper relationship with God?
That's a great question.
And one I'm sure our listeners are wondering too.
I think Bishop Jackson addresses that
Oh, good.
in the next section.
So let's continue our deep dive.
And see what he has to say.
One thing I really appreciate
Is that he doesn't present this inward way as some sort of retreat from the world.
It's not about escaping reality.
No.
It's about transforming it.
From the inside out.
Exactly.
He was very clear about that.
Oh, yeah.
It's not about becoming a hermit.
Right.
It's about bringing that connection with Christ.
Into every area of our lives.
Yes. He kept saying that God's presence isn't limited.
To specific times or places.
We can access it anytime
Anywhere.
through this prayer of simplicity.
That turning of our hearts toward him.
It's like having this constant awareness
An ongoing
of
conversation
God.
that flows through everything we do.
It really does make even the ordinary moments.
So much richer.
I love when he said, more natural and easier than taking a breath,
Beautiful. Right.
to describe this connection with God.
It's like he's stripping away
All the religious baggage.
and getting to the heart of what it truly means
To have a relationship.
with him. But I am curious, how do we actually maintain that connection?
When we're bombarded with distractions.
It's the busyness of life.
All of it.
He really emphasized intentionality.
Okay.
Making that conscious choice
To turn our hearts towards God.
throughout the day.
It's like a muscle we have to.
Exercise, strengthen it.
So it's not about being perfect.
No, not at all.
It's those little moments,
For every connection
those whispers of prayer
that keep us anchored.
to his presence.
He talked about finding those pockets of stillness,
Even in the middle of chaos.
like during your commute,
Washing dishes.
even taking a few deep breaths.
In the middle of a crazy workday.
It's like hitting pause
Shifting our focus
from the external to the internal,
from the demands of the world.
to the presence of God,
And these moments don't have to be,
long or elaborate.
he said, even a simple Jesus
Or thank you,
can be so powerful.
a way to reconnect,
It's like a lifeline
pulling us back,
to that place of peace.
grounded in his presence.
He encouraged us to be creative,
Find what works for you,
whether it's music, nature.
or just silence,
The key is
to create those opportunities.
a connection
It's about weaving that awareness of God.
into everything we do,
So it's not compartmentalized.
but integrated.
And this is where his challenge to let go of the old comes in.
Oh, yeah, that one really got me thinking.
It's powerful.
He said, and I'm going to quote him here,
Go ahead.
the last move of God is the thing that will hinder the next move. Your last experience with God is the thing that will hinder your next experience with God.
It's profound.
It's like we get stuck in those past experiences,
Comfortable with a certain understanding.
resistant to something new,
He's challenging us to be to the unexpected.
to let God surprise us.
Break out of those limitations.
It takes humility
Recognizing we don't have all the answers.
and trusting that God is leading us on a journey of growth.
And that journey might take us through
Some tough times,
valleys of doubt, seasons of dryness,
feeling lost.
but he's always with us.
Even then,
His love is constant.
unchanging.
He's always pursuing us.
He encouraged us to
Never give up.
keep seeking,
Keep knocking.
keep believing
That he is working everything together.
for our good,
It's a message of hope.
perseverance.
Even when we can't see the way,
He is still guiding us.
loving us, drawing us closer.
I'm just in awe
I know what you mean.
at the depth of God's love
And the possibilities that open up
when we surrender
to his presence.
and embrace this journey.
It's a journey of transformation.
Continual growth,
Discovering the true riches.
found only in Him.
Here's a final thought from Bishop Jackson.
Okay, let's hear it.
He asked, "What does it look like for you to live by God himself with less difficulty and with less interruptions than you now live by the air which you take into you?"
Wow.
It's like he's saying,
Make that connection with God.
as natural as breathing,
May that be our prayer.
as we continue on this journey
Discovering His love
and experiencing the fullness of life,
that He has for us.